In the house, it is the one and only Executive Director, Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association, our friend Ken Newburger. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning, Paul. How you doing?
Good Christmas. Everything okay?
It was a great Christmas. My son is 3, so it was his first one he was he was conscious for, and he really knew what was going on. So it's just fantastic.
You will turn around and find out that your grandchild is 3, and it'll happen like in 6 months from now. Life passes so fast, it really does, but it's a great time. 3 years old, it's about time for another one.
Well, it's like 2.5. Yeah, we'll have another one in about 6 months. So,
hey, that's good timing there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did promo this and just mention this, that we're getting closer and closer to rolling out the first stores here. Mm-hmm. But from your perspective and from your association, which is the Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association, where are we? What's the status as we begin to as we almost end the year here?
Yeah, well, right now we're just waiting for the testing labs to get their green light from the Department of Health. There's a good bit of product grown. There are quite a few patients across the state ready to purchase it. There are a lot of places for them to purchase. It's just we need to get the product safely tested so they can consume it.
So we have the buildings up.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of retail outlets, bricks and mortar, are ready to open.
That's correct.
We have the products to put in the bricks and mortar.
That's right.
We have the process is ongoing and continues to grow as far as people acquiring the cards necessary to purchase.
That's right.
But we have no testing facilities because that's got to be the last check, which is an independent operation, is it not? I mean,
that's correct. Yes, there are some national standards that they have to adhere to, as well as some very strict state standards they need to adhere to. And so, getting those validated, their test method validation, to prove that they're going to consistently produce results that communicate what is in the actual product. That's where we're at. We're waiting to get those green lights.
What's the holdup on this?
We test for more what they call analytes of what is in the product, more than any other state. So to get those all individually done takes a long time.
I don't understand that.
So they'll run a test or two.
This is on edibles and smoke.
This is on all products. Yes. Right. And it's two different processes. Yeah. So there's stuff for edibles.
Well, some states are not doing testing on selected items, or what?
Some states are not. Most are doing on all items, but the difference is what's inside. There's 59 different things we're testing for in this state when you actually run the test. You'll see mercury.
The composition, the chemical composition.
Right. So we're testing for more of those chemicals.
Is that going to mean the disqualification rate on this, or the kickback rate on this one, is going to be unusually high for this state?
That's the idea, I think, is to make sure that
or the fear.
I guess more that's the fear from growers, and so that's why they're taking a lot of care to make sure they do it right. But I think we're going to see, especially at the beginning of the market, you'll see a lot of people fail. They'll have ways to get it remediated or grow a new crop, but I think
we were thinking about this, that the only reason it would be contaminated with a chemical or something, or else it would be over or under what they said it was going to be. And that was just the 3 areas that most of us lay people would think. But you're talking about the chemical composition, much like in a cigarette, I would imagine.
Yeah, so, there are some things that it doesn't really matter, where it dings as long as it's under. So THC, for example, is no more than 30% of the flower can be THC, right? So if it comes in at 22%, not a problem. Comes in at 18, not a problem. So
is that going to be labeled on the package?
Yes, that will be labeled on the package. But there are pesticides and heavy metals that you have to be under a certain amount of units within the actual plant, and if that's a very, very small margin of error.
I think you and I would agree that that's a good thing. Number one, because these are going to be going to people who are having some medical issues. And the last thing you want is mislabeling.
Absolutely. No, I don't think that the testing, getting all the validation that is needed to make sure that they are consistently testing and communicating what is in there and really vetting the product before patients can buy it, I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Help us out a little bit, set the stage here. How many, we have one or two testing companies?
We have two right now that are on the cusp of getting their accreditation and green light from the Department of Health. And then there's at least one other that I know of that should be open sometime in Q2 of this upcoming year.
Well, two of them, are they going to be able to handle this load as far as statewide?
Yes. Currently, I don't think in 6 to 12 months they will, because there's more and more product that is getting grown. But as of right now, I think the two that are available, I think they'll be able to catch up to the backlog of product very quickly.
Ken Newburger, Ken, I hope I'm not asking you something that's out of your ballywick here, but how does this happen? Do they go to the farms, or do where do they go, to the warehouse? Where do the testers go? Or do the retail outlets or the growers have to bring it, first of all, to them? How's that work? Is it?
Well, last time you asked me about mushrooms, so this is much more in my wheelhouse than
Well,
last
I'll ask you about the mushrooms later, because that's going to be a big deal in Oregon. Oregon is getting closer to okay that. They'll be the first state to okay these magic mushrooms.
Well, so the way it works is that a testing lab, when they submit their application to the Department of Health, they have to describe how they plan to go get the samples from growers and manufacturers. And so they actually have staff that go out and they have their own standard operating procedures that is okay by the Department of Health of how to grab the sample and take it back to the lab.
Why do patients get to browse and buy different kinds of marijuana? I don't get to do that in my blood pressure medicine. I would not have voted yes if I knew it would be like a candy store. Well, Robert from Oak Grove, I think we talked about that flexibility, because the pharmaceutical industry is not involved in that one way or the other.
That's right. I do think you should be able to look at your medicine. I think you should be able to look at anything that you're going to be putting in your body or taking, or even putting on top of your body. I think you should be able to look at that well before you purchase it.
So, do we have any idea with the time limit is going to be on this as far as verification or certification of these testing groups?
Yes, I think it'll be, if not the next week, then certainly within the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, let's just say it happens in the middle of January. Then will that mean at least by first quarter these stores will be open?
I think that'll mean by the 1-year anniversary of February 2nd, we'll be seeing something on the shelves.
So that's the target day. You think that some will be open?
I think the target date is January 15th, but we'll see how that rolls out.
How many stores do you think will open at one time?
40 or so. I don't think that they'll be able to. Yeah, I don't think they'll really be able to sustain themselves completely, because we're still seeing more and more patients get their cards. I mean, we only have a little over 1,000 patients, with a couple thousand more that are waiting to get approved by the Department of Health, and that's just not enough to completely sustain the industry right out the gate. But we knew that was going to happen, because it's going to take time for people to go see a certifier and have that visit to see if medical marijuana is right for them.
It is one of those things that's kind of hard to do in a preliminary basis or earlier, before the industry is even there. So I agree with you. I think that will probably start snowballing a little bit later on.
That's right.
Are we following the pattern of other states as far as the progress on this? Well, do you know?
No, we're actually pretty ahead, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I think part of it is because when Initiative 65 passed in 2020, the Department of Health started doing a lot of preliminary research on how to regulate a program. Over the past year, since the bill has passed, we've seen even more expedition of the program. So, I mean, I think from passage of the bill in February of 2022 until now, less than a year to have testing labs up and running, product actually grown, that's very, very fast.
I'm looking at data here, and some people sent me some new stuff too. The states who have had this the longest are really having problems, and I mean both with medical marijuana and recreational. Certainly recreational, it's just gone crazy. There's more and more dire consequences, and the barn door is open for us, so you deal with what it is, because it is what it is. And we have got to make sure that we do this the right way as far as the rollout.
Absolutely.
And the continuing monitoring. And from my understanding, that is something that you're in that position to do. We'll talk more with Ken Newberry. I said it. Ken Newburger coming up in a moment or two, Executive Director.
Thanks.
The Medical Marijuana Association. More with Ken coming up next. News. Back with Ken Newburger, Executive Director, Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association. Just for clarification, because somebody asked me, I did not know this. I think we talked about it once before. But if you are a testing company, can you also be a vendor?
No.
You have to be separated, and you can't sell your own product.
That's true.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted to make sure. And somebody was asking about that.
And each individual owner of the testing company cannot own any of another type of business in the industry.
Got it. So they have to be just
completely walled off.
Walled off. All right. What else are we? What are any other updates that we have here? Still, are you concerned about the number of cards out there that are available?
No, unless if you're asking me if I'm concerned how few there are.
Yeah.
That not really. You see in other states that it comes pretty quickly after product is available.
Yeah.
Plus, your card is only good from when you actually get it certified. So if you get it certified and product's not available for 2 months, you
just wasted time.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have any idea? Do you guys put a number on how many cards are available? In other words, how many people you think? I'm sure it's a ballpark number. How many people that could qualify totally if everybody did?
Yeah, somewhere between 140 and 150,000 Mississippians.
That's it. Even with all the specifications we have.
Correct. Yes.
What are you going to be asking for as the head of the association going into the 2023 legislative session?
Well, there's a lot that a patient has to do to get certified, and some of it's reasonable and understandable. I mean, you got to go take your records to a physician or a nurse practitioner, someone who can certify you, who has gotten their hours and done their studies to make sure that they can give you a certification. But then there's a lot of burden on them to go to the Department of Health and say, hey, by the way, I did this. We want to shift that away from the patient and put it on the people who are actually providing the certifications, that they say, hey, look, I saw, Paul, and I saw his driver's license.
Much
I made sure
like
he's
any
from
other
Mississippi.
medicine.
Just like any other medicine. Yeah. You don't need to do anything other than wait for your certification to come to you from the Department of Health and then take that to a dispensary to purchase. That's all we want to see.
Is that something that is just on the state of Mississippi? Do other states do that?
That's, from what we can tell, that's the only thing, that's an only Mississippi thing.
When you say, if let's just say I got a prescription for some gummy bears, and now I got to go to physically the Department of Health?
Well, physically on their website. You have to go to a computer.
Oh, you just got to go to the computer.
Right, which, look, we get calls from people, who are older that have trouble working technology. We walk them through it, and that's great that we're there to help them, but those are only people who take the initiative to go to our website and call us, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a smaller minority than we want to see.
But legally, whomever the physician is, do they have to have some a paper trail on who they've got to communicate? I would guess they've got to communicate with the Department of Health and say, look, Bob Jones is now qualified to this card.
That's right. They have to communicate.
So you've got some checks and balance without the other person.
Right. So they have to communicate that both to the Department of Health and to the Board of Pharmacy. So
you're going to ask the state legislature to make that change in the new the new legislative session.
That's right.
What else?
Well, that's it. There are a couple of smaller things that are all on the patient side. Again, this is really nitty-gritty. The certification that you get from a physician, it only is good for you to go to the Department of Health for 60 days. And after that, you have to revisit a physician if you don't take the time to go on and log in and create your profile with the Department of Health. So again, if that's going to stay, we want to extend that from 60 to 180. So those are the kinds of small little tweaks on the patient side. We don't want to see anything change really for cultivators and processors until we see how this kind of rolls out. Just because, as you were saying, we've seen in other states what happens if you aren't careful about rolling it out. So we want to make sure that we take that measured approach here.
Ken, is the usage date the same on all products? In other words, you're clear. Oh, is that right? Mm-hmm. So in other words, if you're smoking compared to edibles, the usage allowing period is different?
Oh, the usage allowing period. I thought you meant like the expiration date.
Well, how long you are cleared to use it? What, you have to renew it every year, you said?
That's right.
Okay.
Or less, depending on what the certifier specifies. So if they say 3 months, then 3 months. If they say 6, it's 6.
So they can put a time period on that.
That is how it's being implemented right now. Yep.
Anything else?
No, I mean that's really it. I mean it's really there's just a couple things on the patient side we want shored up, and then we kind of want to give it some time to breathe. Everything else is getting addressed in the regulations. There's nothing in the law.
Did we put some type of penalties on the patients who get this and I'm not going to say misuse it, but don't protect it? It's almost like an unprotected gun. If a child gets this, or do you think that's already covered in other laws?
It's already covered in other laws. So once they stop using it for the express purpose of medical use, and they start, if they resell it or something, they are instantly a criminal that is selling illicit drugs. So that's how it works. It stops becoming under this law and starts becoming under our current law.
Anything that we don't expect, and we just never thought about that, but people in other states, as far as medical marijuana, not recreational, some of the people in other, whether it's the relationship of the legality at work, the usage on the wherever it happens to be, some of the things that you're kind of worried about when it rolls out?
No, I think we've anticipated, or maybe even over-anticipated a couple things, from the security standpoint, from what our state needs to do. I think that we're really kind of in the wait-and-see period right now, where we've got another month or two before it's really going to be up and going, and we'll know a lot more then.
Are you satisfied as far as workforce development? We'll bring that in here, too, as far as the people who are being trained and going to open with these stores?
Yes. It's always
Where
fun.
are they being trained?
There are a couple of different approved courses from the Department of Health that are a lot of them have to do with appropriate tracking and use of the technology around tracking. And so it's kind of an on-site thing for some people. It's online for others because they've started a couple different schools to go through how to appropriately handle working in a cannabis facility. So it's all over. But it's nice to see that so many people are entering this workforce who are really excited about it.
How many people are going to be in a store at any given time?
Depends on the size of the store. Depends on the location. I mean, you can see as few as 2.
Security going to be there too?
Yes. Yeah, that's. I'm not including them when I think of people in the store. I think of just the people who are actually inside the store. I believe it's either on-site security inside or outside, depending on how they've done their SOPs, but they have to have some level of security at all times.
Yeah, and you can't get in, and you just can't come in and look around.
That's right.
Unless you have a card.
That's right.
So no shopping and looking for the specials of the day.
Well, you can go to, as of right now, you can go to companies' websites, but yes, you can't just walk in and hang out or anything. You've got to have a purpose to be there.
And no home delivery of this is going to be allowed, I'm sure. So
that's correct.
All right, my man. Well, look, I appreciate it so very, very much. Anything else that we're missing here? But just to give people an idea, you feel like, once again, that maybe January 15th, that's optimistic, but for almost a better bet is going to be the 1st of February.
Yeah, sometime in those 2 weeks, yeah.
You got it. Ken, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Congratulations on the one coming and first Christmas that he was a little bit aware. Now, next Christmas, it's probably going to be wanting a smartphone or something like that.
Well, let's hope he
Thank you,
doesn't
man.
go.
Appreciate it.